Kyler Murray's really a franchise quarterback? I don't know. This is RamView.
It's hot out there. Let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline, Los Angeles.
Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, November 27th, 2023 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's Kistler Law. They've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues? Get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And by Granite Ridge Christian Camp, a place where your life can change. Okay, Rams won yesterday, but let's heed the words of the wolf. Let's not start, getting too excited just yet. The Rams beat the Cardinals, and they did to them what they needed to do. But it doesn't change the fact that they're still the Cardinals, right? They're still the Cardinals. The good news here is the Rams obliterated them, right? It was 37-14, right? So that's what they should have done. And that's the best part, is that beat up the teams that you're supposed to beat up. This is what the Cowboys have been doing all year, right? They beat up the teams they're supposed to beat up. And so the Rams did what they should do. Of course, the Cowboys didn't beat up the Cardinals, but Cardinals, I think they're headed in the right direction. They just got two things they need to worry about. One, how do you get out of the Kyler Murray contract and who they're going to draft? Did he look like a franchise quarterback to you? I don't know. Anyway, let's just knock this out here with some points. You guys saw the game. You've heard the recaps of the game, broken down everything of the game, but let's just notice a couple things. First drive, Rams are out there. Kupp touches the ball. Nakua touches the ball. Atwell gets the big hit, and then Tyler Higbee scores the touchdown. Four different receivers right there were catching the ball, and this is even before Kyren Williams started to get going. 2 weeks ago during the bye, we were talking about getting Tutu Atwell, giving him more attention. I took a few hits saying, are you saying build the offense around Tutu Atwell? No, I was saying you just need to utilize what he can do, because if he gets more attention, that's less attention on Nakua, that's less attention on Kupp. And the last 2 weeks, the Rams have done that. He had 3 catches only yesterday, but you could see they were throwing his way. I think he had, what did he have? Something like 77 yards on 3 catches. So the more attention he gets, it's good. Now, some are talking about, well, Demarcus Robinson got 40 snaps and Tutu only 24. Well, some of that is starters were pulled. But the other aspect of that is that look what the Rams did in the second half. In the second half, they were really about establishing that run. Royce Freeman, the other guy, was pretty good, along with Kyren Williams. And so Demarcus Robinson at 6'1", 203 is a better option to block. I wouldn't read that suddenly Atwell has lost favor. If you lose favor, you're not going to start the game. If you lose favor, they're not going to go deep to you like they did. It's just, I think part of the game plan was, let's establish this run. Tyler Higbee had a great game. He had a great game. He graded well, but I don't know. Everyone's all in love with Tyler Higbee again. But, Tyler Higbee, those are the first touchdowns he scored all season. He had a couple of other opportunities to score touchdowns, if you remember, and he dropped the ball. I'm glad he caught him now. But Rams still need a tight end. And I don't know what they're going to do. They extended him. I don't know what they'll do. Hunter Long played 15 snaps, didn't have any targets. Davis Allen played 9 snaps, had a catch, got his first catch. It was a nice catch down around the Cardinal goal line. And Bryson Hopkins, right? Bryson Hopkins, what was he, 4th-round pick, 2020. Bryson Hopkins was inactive. And these are the last days, I truly believe, of Bryson Hopkins. Okay, to the talking point that everyone's hitting on, Kyren Williams was terrific, right? He does make this offense go. I liked what Freeman and Darrell Henderson brought to the team during his absence. But with Kyren Williams, you have a chance, if not a home run, you got power to the gap, right? You can hit we got warning track power. Royce Freeman, very unlikely he'll take something to the house, although he had a really nice touchdown run yesterday. Excuse me. Allergies. And Darrell Henderson's not going to hit a home run for you. Kyren Williams did break out, got chased down from behind, but he has more explosiveness, and he was terrific. He was. And here's the other part that really surprises me is no one could find room for Royce Freeman on their roster. There was no room anywhere else in the NFL for Royce Freeman, that this guy was a journeyman just bouncing around these last few years. And Rams get Royce Freeman. I thought he looked really good. I think he's looked really good. And what a great compliment to Kyren Williams. It's a nice balance there, right? And that's good news. I love the way Kyren Williams is playing. You look at his size, unless he becomes Austin Eckler and really goes crazy in the weight room, and maybe he will. I don't see him lasting too long, but we could ride this horse for a while. I liked him. He looks really good. Rams O-line did what it was supposed to do against the Cardinals defensive front. If you look at the Rams grades, which I'm hesitant about the grades sometimes, but the Rams all scored, all of the key offensive linemen scored in the 70s according to PFF, which means they were very good. Coleman Shelton was 65. Kevin Dotson was off the charts again. Havenstein, Alaric Jackson. But again, it goes back to this Cardinal defense where there's nobody to fear on that Cardinal defense. Nobody. They got no one to fear. And so the Rams did what they were supposed to do. Instead of taking some no-name guy and making him look good, they did what they were supposed to do, and then they shut the door. And people are talking about Matthew Stafford missing some throws, but they made it clear he's still dealing with that thumb. And so I would hope it continues to heal. If he stays clean in the pocket, it's going to heal probably. The other thing was, did you see him in the pocket? Don't let anyone ever sell you the bill of goods that Matthew Stafford is this immobile statue. He's not going to take off downfield and break off a 40-yard run like Justin Herbert did last night. But he can move in that pocket. His legs are still there. And we saw him. He looked really good yesterday. You hope the thumb continues to heal and the Rams can stay on track. So offensively, it looked good. You're anxious to see what's going on with Cooper Kupp. They said if he can't injure it anymore, he can play as long as he can play through the pain. And so, offense looked solid against a team it should have looked solid against. Speaking of the Cardinals, I was open that first drive to giving Kyler Murray some slack, but I still don't like Kyler Murray's body language for a leader of your team. People were saying maybe he's still nursing that ACL. Well, if you remember the first two games he was back, I think it was the one in Atlanta, he broke that run where he broke the contain and raced for like 28 yards downfield, looked quick and everything. But down the stretch in the game against the Rams yesterday, either he's hurt or he lost interest. That sack in the final minute was eerily reminiscent of the phantom sack of Everett back in the 89 NFC title game. I know it was played in January, okay? But he steps up in the pocket, and then he just goes down. And I don't know, was his knee bothering him? Is he hurting? If he's trying to play and he's hurt, great. But his body language, I've never liked his body language. He looks truculent. He looks very whiny to me, and I don't want a whiny quarterback. And the Cardinals are in bed with him to the tune of some serious bucks the next few years. If I'm Jonathan Gannon, my team has played hard all year. They're running out of gas. But I would want what's best for my team and tell ownership, I need another quarterback. I do. And I wasn't really impressed with Kyler Murray yesterday. And he's never that impressive against the Rams. But if he's not moving, if he's not willing to move with his legs, or he can't move with his legs, the special of his game, the splash part of his game, it's gone. And he's not going to kill you in the pocket. So, and I don't know what the Cardinals were thinking on late in the first half. It was 4th and 2 at midfield with 2 minutes to play, and they went for it, and that led to a Rams score. I didn't understand that play at all. Regarding James Conner, James Conner, you got to wrap him up and hold on and hope you can drag him down, because Rams were learning yesterday, some of the Ram players, Byron Young for one, I think Kobe Turner, is that you're not going to hit James Conner and think you're going to pull him down. And so, okay, I was getting worried about this guy in the first drive, but he only got, 6-7 carries in the whole game? Make that make sense. I don't know why. If your quarterback needs a little help, take a little pressure off, pound James Conner, and they didn't do it. The Cardinals offensive line graded well, and this is where the PFF grading is just a little wonky. But did that Cardinals offensive line look good to you? Did they? Did they look good to you? Because they sure didn't look good to me. Something to think about. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals turned Rams safety Jordan Fuller into an all-pro yesterday. I don't have a problem with Jordan Fuller, but he looked great. The secondary, Akilla Witherspoon, Darian Kendrick, both played very well. John Johnson played well. Kobe Durant only played 32 snaps in his first game back, but that's okay, right? They were pulling everyone back. He still probably got a tender shoulder. All that was good, and the secondary did an excellent job. I recall the holding call on Russ Yeast was ridiculous, but it didn't have a major impact on the game. The lowest graded Ram defender was Ernest Jones. Yeah, Ernest Jones. Did he look that bad to you? Again, the PFF grades, a little wonky sometimes. Kobe Turner, 91st overall out of Northwestern for the Rams, had 2 sacks, and he looked great. And he got those 2 sacks as he blew through the 6th overall pick, Paris Johnson Jr. DeJuan Johnson, Mr. Irrelevant, last pick in the draft, got a sack running through Paris Johnson Jr. 6th overall. He must have been having Ohio State hangover yesterday, but it proves you can draft a guy high, but it doesn't mean he's going to be good. And I think about this ever since the Rams were trying to replace Orlando Pace at left tackle, right? Alex Barron, bust. Was it Justin Smith? Bust. Greg Robinson, bust. The Rams can't fill it, and they had high draft picks. Justin Smith and Greg Robinson were 2nd overall picks, and they were busts. You just never know. I'm not saying Paris Johnson Jr. is a bust, but boy, I tell you, Kobe Turner made him look like a chump yesterday, and so did DeJuan Johnson. And so, yeah, I'm really happy with that pick, right? 91st overall pick. Rams are getting a lot of clicks out of him. Aaron Donald only played 42 snaps, which is good as we head into another critical part of the season with the Browns and the Ravens the next 2 weeks. Bobby Brown played only 19 snaps, but played well, right? The snap counts are down. And then finally, you look at Rams kicker Lucas Havrizik. Is that how you pronounce it? He seems to be wanting to be home for Christmas, right? I got to imagine he's on thin ice. I got to imagine Snead and them are looking around and considering what they would need to do in case Havrizik doesn't pull this off. We are all hopeful. The last time we signed a kicker off the Colts practice squad, it was Matt Gay. You're hopeful for the kid, but we'll see. I wasn't so much troubled by the missed field goal, but by the missed extra point. So as we look at this Rams drive to the playoffs, right? Again, we talked about it. 5 automatics in the NFC. You're going to have 4 division winners, and no one's going to catch the Cowboys right now. Falcons, with their win over the Saints yesterday, moved up to 5-6. So they are now in first place in the AFC or the NFC South. And so the playoff picture for the last 2 wild card spots looks like this: Minnesota 6-5, Seattle 6-5, Green Bay 5-6, Rams 5-6, Saints 5-6, Tampa Bay 4-7, TaxSkins 4-8, Giants 4-8. Now for the Rams, they have the Saints still on the schedule, and they have the TaxSkins and the Giants still on the schedule. Those are good things. Those are really good things. The problem is Green Bay. Green Bay gets the Chiefs this coming week, and then they finish the season with Giants, Buccaneers, Panthers, Vikings, Bears. That's hardly murderer's row, and that's scary. Minnesota is at 6-5, and they get the Bears, Raiders, Bengals, Lions, Pack, and Lions again. That's still a winnable schedule for them. Depends. Well, you're going to see tonight how Minnesota plays, right? We're going to see how Minnesota plays. You need to be rooting for the Bears. And but the team that worries me is Green Bay and their schedule. Seattle, they get Dallas this week, then Frisco again, then Philly. I think Seattle's toast. I really do. I would be surprised if Seattle is on the right side of a winning record before the season is over because their schedule is going to get them. Looking at other places and around the NFL, did you see the end of the Eagles Bills yesterday? That one was brutal. Bill, I'm going to get to your question just right now in a minute, as soon as we get to the break. I promise. Thank you for asking questions. I love questions. Did you see the end of the Bills Eagles game? 20 seconds left, and the Bills have the ball, and they got a timeout, and they got a quarterback like Josh Allen. I was stunned. They take a knee and play for overtime. And all I could think of is Sean McDermott is this year's Chuck Knox. He's Chuck Knox 3.0, right? Marty Schottenheimer was Chuck Knox 2.0. And then, of course, Chuck Knox was the original guy. But taking a knee with 20 seconds left and a timeout, and this is a Buffalo Bills team that knows what 13 seconds can do to you with an outstanding quarterback. They have an outstanding quarterback. They got a vulnerable secondary in Philly. And why not take the shot? Why not take the shot? And instead, McDermott takes a knee. And here's the problem with McDermott. McDermott, Schottenheimer, and Knox, they're the worst coaches, right? Because they're not bad coaches. They're just one step from great, right? They're one step from great. They will never, ever get your team over the top. Think of all of Chuck Knox playoff appearances with the Rams, the Bills, the Seahawks. Think of all of Marty Schottenheimer's success with the Browns and the Chiefs, and even with the Chargers. Think of McDermott's success this last half decade in Buffalo. Not one Super Bowl appearance. Not one. He is Chuck Knox 3.0. The Panthers fired Frank Wright today, and that's interesting because I don't think they were expected to be a good team, but they fired, Ron Rivera, Matt Rule, and even Steve Wilkes, who did a pretty good job for them last year, and moved on to Reich, and they canned him. And I don't know. You get an itchy trigger finger like that. I don't know who they're going to get to come in. Do they think someone like Eric Bieniemy would want to come? I think Eric Bieniemy, while I don't think he's probably the best interview in the world, but someone like Eric Bieniemy is probably looking at it and says, you know what, Bryce Young could be okay, but that situation in Carolina, I don't think I want to go there, right? Around the NFL and other places, speaking of other places, did you know that Anthony Davis is making 40 rocks this year for the Lakers? And the highest paid player in the NBA this calendar season is Steph Curry making 51. The Joker, LeBron, and Joel Embiid are all making 47. So what makes me ask this question or bring this up is I saw someone pimping for the in-season NBA basketball tournament. Has no bearing on going to the playoffs or the finals, and there's some carrot of some extra cash for the players. But can I just ask you, when you're making 40 rocks, 51 rocks, 47 rocks, how much are they really offering you to make these games worthwhile? I think it seems kind of silly. Again, one more time before you head to break, be sure to root for the Bears tonight. We want Justin Fields to light it up. We need the Vikings to take another loss. All right. I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView. I apologize for my allergies. I'm hacking it up here. But I was I was a sports writer for 21 years, and now I do RamView thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law and, of course, Temple City Auto. And I get to talk about Rams football, and I also write books, and my books are on Amazon. Just type in my name, Joe Tarosian, and you'll see them. And I've written 2 high school football novels that were well received. I do have pending a football book coming out called Game Day in the Ram Cave. And so we're looking forward to releasing that very, very, very soon. I do these things because I have a day job. My day job is I pastor a small church in Burbank Faith Nazarene. And we have a channel right here on YouTube, Burbank Faith Virtual, and you can check us out there. So I think I got the commercial in, and of course you can check us out all over social media. If you want to give us a look on Spotify, we would appreciate that. We want to increase our numbers and presence there on Spotify. We've ticked up a little bit, but we could use some help over there. Okay, let's look at some of the questions that came in. Actually, it's Bill. Did you notice Kump limping around? Yeah, we were talking just briefly about that. I imagine always, as long as he's on the field, it's good he's there because he's going to attract attention. And how good would the Rams be if Kupp was completely healthy? Yeah, think about that. I agree, but also think about if Stafford's thumb was completely healthy as well. This Rams team is close. It's close. And again, this is supposed to be the season of pain. And we're going to get into the Browns here in a minute. That a game where they were going up against probably the most formidable defense in the NFL this year, suddenly at home next week looks really, really winnable. And the word on Kupp is, I don't mind if he's out there as long as he's drawing attention of the defense. My feeling is what they said is he can't do any more damage to his ankle. It's just a matter of gritting out the pain. And again, this is the new reality with Kupp. He's 30 going on 31, a lot of mileage, right? He's taken a lot of hits. He's caught a lot of balls. He's played a lot of football. And, these things are a reality with these players. There's only so many pitches in a starting pitcher's arm. There's only so many hits a football player has. And I don't like it, but I think Kupp is a good enough, skilled enough player that even if he loses a step, if he could just be healthy, he's always going to be dangerous on a football field because route runners are always dangerous. He is a more, to me, I look at Kupp and I see him as a more developed Steve Largent, right? He's just a guy that's always going to get open. And he's got help with Nakua around him, Atwell getting some attention, Kyrene Williams having to be accounted for. Yeah, so there is possibility there. But yeah, I saw him limping around. It's a bummer. It's a bummer because you love Cooper Kupp, right? Rams update in terms of snap counts on the defensive side. Darian Kendrick played 71 snaps, probably had his best graded game of the year. You take it for what it's worth. He had 71, John Johnson 62, Byron Young 53, and Michael Hoyt 51. Everyone else was under 50. Jason Taylor II, sixth round pick, I think it was, Oklahoma State. He actually had 25 snaps yesterday, so he got his first taste of NFL action. And Trey Tomlinson got 24 snaps in. Duke Shelley got pulled from the game with a hamstring injury, which is terrible because he does have experience in pass coverage. And so when you have these blowout games, it's great because a guy like Trey Tomlinson can get some snaps under his belt. Looking ahead, before we get to college football, looking ahead to Cleveland Week 13, defensive end Myles Garrett, guy in line to be Defensive Player of the Year, and some are talking MVP. He's a beast. He's a bad dude. I totally agree. Left the Bronco game, had his arm in a sling after it was over, and he said he felt something pop in his shoulder. He's undergoing an MRI today. Their backup quarterback, DTR, former Bruin Dorian Thompson-Robinson, was ruled out yesterday after a concussion. He got lit up big time, and they went back to P.J. Walker, but Joe Flacco's on the roster. Amari Cooper left the game with a rib injury, but the x-ray says they are negative. They lost starting defensive tackle Jordan Elliott to an ankle injury. And, of course, their other cornerback, their Pro Bowl cornerback, Denzel Ward, missed yesterday's game with a shoulder injury. It's speculated, but not definitely sure, that he'll be back in time for the Rams game. And so there is some uncertainty there with this Browns team where this was looking like a really tight win for a while, like tight window for the Rams. But this is a game, if all these things hold true, if somehow they lose Myles Garrett, if Jordan Elliott's banged up, if they don't get Denzel Ward back, if Amari Cooper is banged up, and they're going with P.J. Walker next week, this is a game the Rams have to win. They got to pick off, realistically, as my friend Tim Burns says, these are the two games, Cleveland and Baltimore are the two games they can't go 0-2. They got to pick off one of these wins, and the Brown game is a definite pick off. And And so, keep your eyes open. We'll be talking about it more and more as we get through the week. And then, of course, we'll be talking about Baltimore. Okay, my college football top 10. I'm going to start with number 10. I moved Ole Miss back to number 10. I moved Arizona to number 9. Best closing finish of the season by any team. I dropped Ohio State to number 8. Their quarterback's just not good enough. I left Florida State at 7. They're 12-0. And people are talking like just because their quarterback's gone, Jordan Travis, because he's gone, they're not going to get a shot to go to the playoff. That's a kind of a weak reason to say you're not going to make the playoffs. But, it's the NCAA. Alabama's 11-1. They barely beat Auburn, right? They barely beat Auburn, and Auburn lost to New Mexico State last week. So that makes it kind of iffy. Texas, number 5. They worked Texas Tech. Oregon worked Oregon State. Oregon State, we talked about it on Saturday. They lost Jonathan Smith to Michigan State. That's good for Michigan State. I don't know if it's great for Jonathan Smith. Michigan State's a bit of a dumpster fire. Washington held off Washington State in the Apple Cup, 24-21. Georgia had a little bit of a struggle against Georgia Tech. And then, of course, Michigan beat Ohio State, which we talked about in a second. So if I'm looking at the playoff picture right here, Michigan and Georgia are in. The winner of Washington and Oregon is in. So then you got the 4th spot. You got Texas, but Texas beat Alabama, right? And so Texas beat Alabama, and Alabama barely beat a struggling Auburn team. Florida State, even with Jordan Travis, has been okay. So my argument, if Oregon beats Washington, they're in. But Washington with one loss, I would take Washington with one loss before I take Ohio State with one loss, right? Now, Ohio State, Michigan has to beat Iowa. Something weird could happen there. You never know. I think Texas has to beat Oklahoma State. So we have all those things taking place there. But I don't know why 2 Pac-12 schools couldn't be in, because honestly, Washington and Oregon are just as good as Texas or Alabama or Ohio State and Florida State. And so that's my argument. Let's see both Pac-12 schools in the finals. Let's go to week 12 in the NFL and work our way through. Let's see. How good is Durant, taking it on account that he plays next to Aaron Donald? I know you meant Kobe Turner, Bill. That's a great question. I don't know. He only played 31 snaps. Aaron Donald only played 42. I think anyone's going to be successful, but he's showing some speed to the quarterback where, Greg Gaines and Ashawn Robinson, they had an advantage, but I think you're seeing Kobe Turner, the conductor. He seems to have a little more get up and go, and I like him. I like him a lot. And so we've seen it consistently throughout the season. Everyone's going to take advantage. I mean, they're not even double teaming Aaron Donald anymore. They're triple teaming him. So almost anyone that plays against him, is Kobe Turner. Kobe Turner's in a one-on-one situation, but you're going up against Paris Johnson, 6th overall pick. I mean, he's impressive. I really think he's impressive. So good for the Rams and that draft pick. Okay, we've covered this. Packers beat the Lions 29-22. Dallas beat the TaxSkins 45-10. Seahawks lost to Frisco 31-13, which was good for the Rams. Dolphins, Jets, Miami won 34-13. Saints beat the Falcons yesterday. No, Falcons beat the Saints yesterday 24-15, and that was a nice win for the Falcons. They're still only 5-6. Steelers, Bengals. Steelers fired their OC, and everyone's all excited because they talked about all the numbers they put up against the Bengals. Yeah, all the yards they put up, but they only scored 16 points. It's like, okay, 16 points. Jaguars defeated the Texans. It was a big win for Jacksonville, 24-21. Colts beat the Buccaneers. Good for the Rams. They beat the Buccaneers. Colts are a surprising 6-5. When you think about everything that happened during the offseason with the Colts and what was going on with them, and then losing Anthony Richardson, hey, give a little credit to Gardner Minshew, right? and was it Shane Steichen, their head coach? Colts have done a really good job this year. The fact that they're even in the hunt and on the right side of 500. Patriots, Giants. Patriots missed the field goal. Missed the field goal that would have tied to send it into overtime. And isn't it funny that the Giants, with a quarterback that still lives at home, Tommy DeVito, can beat the Patriots with Bill Belichick, right? And all their stuff they've got going on in New England. And yet they would lose to a team quarterbacked by Tommy DeVito. The problem in New England is not Mac Jones. The problem in New England is Bill Belichick. And because Kraft won't do anything about it, the problem in New England is also Robert Kraft. Panthers, Titans. Titans won 17-10. Farewell and adieu, Frank Reich. Broncos, Browns. Broncos, man, I gave them up for dead. They're 6-5. Sean Payton's coach of the year. And they're 29-12. It'll be interesting to see, when they play a team that can really challenge them. Well, you would have thought the Chiefs, but they beat the Chiefs too. So Broncos are on a roll. Chiefs, Raiders, 31-17. Chiefs won. Raiders are getting everything they can out of themselves, but it's not enough. And Bills, Eagles, we talked about that. Philly won 37-31. 20 seconds left. Tie game. You have an opportunity to, with 20 seconds left and a timeout, you have an opportunity to maybe move the ball, and Sean McDermott takes a knee. Ravens, Chargers last night. I expected the Ravens to blow them out. Chargers blew themselves out offensively. The Chargers defense actually showed up, showed the Ravens can be somewhat mortal, and gave me hope as a Rams fan. But the Chargers gave that game away. They're 4-7. And that just doesn't look good at all. Right now, when you think about the AFC and you think about the struggles, Bengals don't have Joe Burrow. They're out. Bills are struggling. They're 6-6, might not make the playoffs. You can't trust what you see in Pittsburgh with Kenny Pickett. Jaguars are still a team that's kind of just opening their Super Bowl window. And then you have the Chiefs. It really makes me think of two things: the Ravens, or what about Denver? What about Denver? Interesting thing here. Bears, Vikings. We talked about that. Go Bears. Can't remember the last time I rooted for the Bears. All right. Dan O, do you know if the Browns DTR is hurt? I talked about that, Dan O, just a few minutes ago. He got blasted yesterday. They took him from the game. They said head injury. I think the word concussion was used. So he's probably in protocol. And if so, they're going to go with PJ Walker, but he was blasted. I don't know if it's still on video somewhere, but yeah, DTR took a massive, massive hit. Okay, on this date in Rams history, the Rams waived Paul Justin, backup quarterback. Big deal. What's the big deal? They did this in 2000, November 27th, 2000. Well, the big deal is Paul Justin is the guy that never was, right? When Kurt Warner was getting the snot beat out of him in the first half of Super Bowl 34 against the Titans, I think there's a quote with Vermeil said he told Paul Justin, be ready to go in. Can you imagine the greatest show on turf? And then the second half against the Titans, they bring in Paul Justin. That guy's that close to appearing in a Super Bowl. And Warner gets up off the rack and just does an amazing job. Born on this day in 1977, former Rams strong safety Adam Archuleta. Rams drafted him 20th overall out of Arizona State. He had 5 great years with the Rams. 5 great years. 3 touchdowns, a pickoff return for a touchdown, 2 fumble recoveries for a touchdown, 15 sacks. And then when his contract was up in 2006, he signed a massive deal with the Redskins, made him one of the highest paid defensive players in the NFL, or at least as a secondary guy. And by 2007, he was with the Bears, and by 2008, he was out of the league. Isn't that amazing how quick they come and they go? I do want to mention November 28th. We're not on the air tomorrow, so I want to mention November 28th. On November 28th, which is tomorrow, Isaiah Robertson, legendary Rams linebacker, was suspended by the Rams for 2 weeks for conduct detrimental to the team. I tried to look up exactly what he was doing, but he had been benched. He had been a starter and lost his job to Bob Brzezinski that season. And Brzezinski was a pretty good linebacker until he kind of melted down in 1980 and got shipped to the Dolphins. But this was the last ride for Isaiah Robertson. He came back, played the final 2 games, then appeared in 2 playoff games against the Vikings and the Cowboys. And then he was shipped off to Buffalo, but just remembering Isaiah Robertson on this day. Also born on this day in 1955, receiver out of New Mexico. He was an undrafted free agent, spent 6 seasons with the Rams, was signed in 1978 by Don Klosterman, and he wasn't much of a guy in 78, but by 79, he was leading us in receiving. His name is Preston Dennard. Preston Dennard turned 68 today. Preston Dennard, in his 6 years with the Rams, averaged 16.2 yards per catch. He was a solid receiver. He wasn't a game breaker, but he had hands. And here's the interesting thing. He was traded in August of 84 to the Buffalo Bills for a 5th-round pick in 1985. Hello, Kevin Green. Isn't that amazing? You take an undrafted free agent, you tweak out of him all of his gifts and all the talent an undrafted free agent has, and then they found a way to move him in 1984 for a 5th-round pick in 1985 that turns out to be Hall of Famer Kevin Green. Now, Don Klosterman wasn't around to make the trade to Buffalo, but Don Klosterman was the guy that brought Preston Dennard in. Something to think about. Also, same day, 1955, 68th birthday today, former Rams #1 draft pick, 19th overall, George Andrews was born. The Rams acquired this draft pick in the Monty Jackson trade back in 77? And he was a good player. George Andrews was a really good player, but his career was cut short by knee injuries, so we never got to see what he would turn into. And then born on this day in 1978 is a forgotten Rams quarterback. He's a 5th-rounder out of Kansas State. His name was Demetrius Butler, started a couple seasons for the Rams, tore up his knee in 2005, and that was it. Now, I bring this up for 2 reasons here. People were talking yesterday how Kyren Williams was a 5th-round draft pick and Puka Nacua was a 5th-round draft pick. So I had it in my head, excuse me. I had it in my head to find out what's the Rams' all-time 5th-round team look like, right? If I took every player the Rams drafted in the 5th round, what would this team look like, and who would be the names? And I started off in the Super Bowl era going forward, 1966. That was the era of the common draft, and went forward to present day to last year. But I couldn't fill out the roster. So after 1966, I started working my way back, and I had to chase all the way back to 1958 to fill out this roster. And so here's the Rams' all-time 5th-round team, chasing back to at least 1958. Okay, I'm going with a 3-4 defense. Along the interior, you've got Cody Jones, 5th-rounder, 1973, San Jose State. Dyron Talbert, who played well for the Rams and then was part of the Ramskins deal that played a lot of years for the Redskins up till 1980. Great, really solid defensive tackle. He was drafted 5th round by the Rams in 66 out of Texas. And then a forgotten player, Robert Young, 5th round, 1991 out of Mississippi State, gave the Rams 5 good seasons. The linebackers, the 2 middle linebackers or inside linebackers would be Carl Eckern, 1976, San Jose State, and Micah Kaiser, 2018 out of Virginia. My edge rushers would be Ogbo Okoronkwo, 2018 out of Oklahoma, Kevin Green, 1985 out of Auburn. And then you look at my corners, Tage Allen, forgotten guy, 1997 out of Texas, had a couple seasons with the Rams. Demetrius Butler, 2001 out of Kansas State. Safety Chris Crooms, 1 season, 1992 out of Texas A&M. Was a little thin there. But then James Washington, 1988 out of UCLA. Had to get a little creative on the offensive line. I fudged and I moved Warren McClendon to left tackle. He was drafted just this past year out of Georgia. Left guard, David Edwards, 2019 out of Wisconsin. Then the center was a guy named Frank Marchalewski, 1965 out of Minnesota. He never really started much for the Rams. It was all Ken Iman by then, but drafted in the 5th round by the Rams and did actually play for the team. Right guard, Don Chai, 1963 out of Clemson. He had a nice 6-year run with the Rams. And of course, right tackle, Fred Miller, 1996 out of Baylor, 5th rounder. He was the starting right tackle in Super Bowl 34. At wide receiver, 1976 out of Grambling, Dwight Scales. Wide receiver, 2023 out of BYU, some guy named Puka Nakua. And tight end, 5th rounder, 2010 out of Illinois, Michael Humanawi, right? Humanawi, right? We talked about him. Michael H., right? That's what I used to call him back in the day. He had a couple seasons for the Rams. Running backs, 5th rounder, Kyron Williams, 2022 out of Notre Dame. Robert Del Pino, 1988 out of Missouri. Now, Del Pino was he was a Swiss Army knife at running back. He could do a little bit of everything. Imagine a backfield with Del Pino and Kyron Williams today. And the quarterback, I had to chase all the way back to 1958, was Frank Ryan out of Rice. Many people don't remember Frank Ryan, but he won a world championship with the Cleveland Browns in 1964, I think it was. Think about that. Think about this. Rams had Norm Van Brocklin. They won a title with him in 51. They traded him to the Eagles, and he won a title there in 60. Rams had Bill Waddy. They traded him to the Bears, and he won a title with the Bears in 63. And I think it was 64 that Frank Ryan started off with the Rams and was traded to the Browns, won a title for the Browns in 64. That's the Rams' all-time 5th-round team. I thought it was interesting. We might have to do some other ones going forward, but I thought people would like to see that. Okay, I think we've got it through, right? Was it a stone groove today?
It was a stone groove, my man.
All right, it was a concussion. They did label it as a concussion. They originally said it's a head injury. Thank you, Mr. Barker. Thank you for not telling a joke to throw me off. Folks, it was a stone groove being with you today. I am so sorry for my voice, the coughing. Got to take those allergy pills. Thank you so much for clicking on. We're going to post this all around. Ask your questions. If you know anybody, hit like, subscribe, and we'll be back on Tuesday, hopefully with a better voice. Okay, folks, God bless. Take care, and we will talk to you